Well, you can't really scroll online right now without bumping into something about predictions for 2025.
No, it's definitely everywhere.
Yeah, so we're not going to rehash every single detail because honestly, you've likely already seen the buzz, you know?
It's certainly become a really widespread topic of conversation.
Right. And the question I think most of us have, the one we're really digging into today, is pretty straightforward. Will this whole round of predictions, all the talk about major stuff in 2025, will it just end up like 1999 or 2010, 2012?
Right.
You know, where the date comes and
This just goes on.
exactly, life pretty much continues as normal.
That's the core of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Given history, a bit of skepticism seems pretty healthy.
Absolutely. But what makes this particular moment kind of interesting, I think, is just the sheer number of different ideas floating around. It's not just like one theory or one person. We're seeing, well, everything from alleged prophetic dreams and indigenous wisdom to, well, some pretty out there scientific interpretations, too.
It's a real mix.
It is. So to get us started, maybe let's look at one of the figures who seems to be right at the center of a lot of this buzz. The Japanese manga artist.
She's, in her 70s now?
Mhm.
And she's apparently been recording her dreams since way back in 1976.
Yeah, since 76. That long history is kind of key to how people see her predictions, I think.
Definitely. It gives it a certain weight for some people.
Exactly. It sort of all comes back to her 1999 manga, I Saw the Future.
Right.
In it, she described 15 dreams, and, well, the claim is that 10 of them came true.
10 out of 15.
Yeah. And the one that really sticks out now, looking back, is her dream of a large disaster in March 2011. And, well, lots of readers connected this to the huge earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan on March 11th, 2011.
Well, yeah. Given the timing and just how devastating 2011 was, you can see why people made that connection.
Totally. It definitely boosted the credibility of her earlier work in, a lot of people's eyes.
It certainly did.
And there's this kind of loose idea associated with her predictions. They call it fivefold timing.
Right, the timing thing.
Like the dream about the Kobe earthquake, apparently that was 15 days before the actual event. 15, 5 times 3, you get it.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing. It's not like a strict rule. The time gap could be days or months or apparently even years later.
So it's flexible.
Yeah, which makes, pinpointing exact timing beforehand pretty much a moving target.
That's a really crucial point, actually. That flexibility means you can kind of apply it after an event happens to make it fit. Makes it way harder to use for actual future predictions.
Right, exactly. So, okay, fast forward to 2021. Ryu releases a complete edition of her manga, and this is where the big 2025 prediction, the one causing all the current chatter, comes from.
This is the main one everyone's talking about now.
Yeah, a major disaster supposedly hitting on July 5th, 2025.
July 5th, 2025. Very specific.
Very specific. And the dream itself, it's quite detailed. She sees this massive underwater explosion in the sea between Japan, the Philippines, and Taiwan, this triangular area.
Yeah.
And this blast triggers this enormous tsunami, she says, hundreds of meters high.
Hundreds of meters. Wow.
Yeah, which slams into the surrounding countries. Japan suffers the most, potentially losing a third to a quarter of its land.
That's catastrophic. Just unimaginable.
Totally. But interestingly, Taiwan is supposedly untouched in the dream.
That's specific too.
Yeah.
Taiwan spared while Japan is devastated. It raises questions.
It does, and it gets even more specific. The dream apparently includes land rising from the sea.
Rising.
Yeah, like connecting Taiwan, the Philippines, and Hong Kong.
Wow. That's a huge geological event to even imagine a land bridge like that.
Right. Massive implications.
It would have, dramatic global implications, sure.
For sure. And she reportedly had this dream not just once, but twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The second time was apparently on July 5th, 2021 at exactly 4:1 a.m.
Okay, July 5th again.
Right. And this second dream happening on that date is what's led people to speculate about the exact date and even the time for the 2025 disaster.
Ah, I see. The repetition and the specific timing of the second one gives that date more weight for believers.
Exactly. Adds emphasis, you could say.
Though, dream interpretation is always tricky, very subjective.
Now, here's a distinction Ryu makes that I found interesting. She apparently believes that this 2025 event is a disaster, potentially man-made.
Ah, man-made.
Yeah, as opposed to the 2011 catastrophe, which she saw as natural.
That's a key difference. So she's thinking Maybe not a natural earthquake trigger this time.
Seems like it. That suggests a whole different kind of trigger in her mind.
Right.
And, a man-made disaster in that specific region.
Yeah, that raises a whole different set of concerns, absolutely. Geopolitical ones, maybe?
Could be. She also mentions seeing two dragon-like shapes.
Dragons.
Yeah, moving east to west in the dream just before the undersea explosion. Powerful imagery.
Definitely. Dragons often symbolize, well, powerful forces. Could be destructive, could be transformative, depends on the context, I guess.
Interesting. And just to add another layer to her story, she apparently traveled to India
Oh, yeah.
to meet Sathya Sai Baba, a spiritual leader she said she'd recognized from another dream. And during this meeting, she reportedly felt like she was regaining past life memories.
Oh.
Which, it makes you wonder if this kind of profound personal experience could be linked to how vivid her dreams are or how accurate people perceive them to be.
It's possible. Experiences like that can be incredibly impactful, shape how you see reality, maybe even your connection to potential future events. It certainly adds a unique angle to her story.
It really does. Okay, so that's sort of the core of Ryu's big 2025 prediction, but like we said, she's not the only voice in this chorus.
Not at all.
But
There are quite a few others pointing to 2025.
yeah, so let's broaden out a bit. Let's look at some other prophecies, other interpretations that are out there. One of our sources, Naoki Man's show, who, many listeners probably know for covering this kind of stuff.
Right. He does deep dives into these topics.
He does, and he gives a helpful overview of past doomsday predictions. Your Nostradamus scares, the whole Y2K bug panic.
Oh, yeah. Y2K.
The 2012 Mayan calendar thing. And he highlights that familiar pattern, this intense buildup, lots of anticipation, and then ultimately,
Nothing really happens.
yeah, pretty much nothing significant. That historical perspective is honestly really useful when we look at these current claims.
It really is. History provides good context.
Yeah.
And the track record for these kinds of predictions actually materializing is, well, not great.
Not great at all, exactly. And Naoki Man's show also touches on other figures pointing to 2025, like there's a Hopi prophecy about a blue star approaching.
The Hopi Blue Star Kachina prophecy, yeah. That's a long-standing part of their tradition, often seen as signaling major changes, the end of one world age, the start of another.
Right, transformation. And then a Navajo elder named Leon, he's quoted warning that 2025 will be a point of no return for humanity.
Elder Leon. That carries that weight of indigenous wisdom, often speaking about our relationship with the planet, right?
Seems like it.
Yeah, indigenous prophecies often emphasize that interconnectedness, humanity, nature, the consequences of how we live.
Then we have someone completely different, Yasuo Kunio, a theoretical physicist.
A physicist.
Yeah, who claims he received top secret information about a potential meteor impact.
A meteor.
Here in the Philippine Sea, around July 5th, 2025.
July 5th again, and the Philippine Sea. But a meteor this time. Wow. A physicist claiming secret info. That definitely stands out.
It does. It's a totally different kind of predictive thing. Supposed scientific intelligence, not dreams or old prophecies.
Very different.
Then there's also this YouTuber, Kan Ren Ren, who supposedly predicted a tsunami in Japan back in 2020 based on a dream. Now, the theory being floated now is that the date in that dream might have been based on a lunar calendar. And if you convert it, it apparently translates to July 5th, 2025 on our calendar.
Ah, the reinterpretation angle. Trying to make a past prediction fit the current focus date.
Seems like it. It's certainly an interesting attempt to, line things up.
Yeah, that happens a lot with predictions. People look back and try to find connections, reinterpret things.
Right. And we can't forget the widely discussed Indian child prodigy, Anand.
Oh, yes, Abhigya Anand. He's been talking about 2025 for a while.
Yeah, repeatedly mentioning it as a crucial turning point. He's predicting major Earth events in the coming months, actually, and specifically between August and October 2025.
Specific locations, too, right?
Yeah, places like the Himalayas, the Pacific coast of North and South America.
Okay.
And interestingly, his prediction of an earthquake in Myanmar on March 28th, 2025. Well, that seems to have actually happened.
It did. I hadn't heard that specifically.
Yeah, apparently quite accurate, which has definitely got some people paying more attention to his other predictions now.
Well, yeah, a seemingly accurate hit like that can definitely boost credibility for some people, make them think the other stuff is more likely.
Absolutely. He also mentioned potential conflict in the South China Sea around March 2025 as well.
Conflicts, too. So geological and geopolitical.
Seems like it. Then, okay, we have the really famous Bulgarian mystic, Baba Vanga.
Ah, Baba Vanga.
Mm,
Her predictions are legendary, though often vague.
very vague sometimes, yeah. But she reportedly has a 2025 prediction that includes, well, a mix: natural disasters, a major European war, breakthroughs in cancer treatment.
Cancer breakthroughs. That's positive, at least.
Yeah, and increased Russian influence. Quite a diverse set of possibilities there.
That's typical Baba Vanga, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Often broad, symbolic language that you can interpret in many ways after the fact.
exactly. Very open-ended. Makes him adaptable.
Hmm.
And the British psychic Hamilton Parker. He's also shared thoughts on 2025. He sees it as a year of, like, challenges and hope.
Okay, bit more nuance.
Yeah. He talks about seeing a salamander in a fire, symbolic of rebirth after hardship, he thinks.
Interesting image.
But he also sees potential disasters before March 2025, possibly involving Japan. Mentions a black cloud over Japan shaking in Pacific countries.
Before March. So his timing is different from Ryu's July prediction.
Exactly. He also predicts China's payment systems might get hacked in 2025, and potential South China Sea conflict weapons testing, undersea earthquakes, kind of echoing Anand a bit there.
Some overlap on the South China Sea points.
Yeah. But crucially, he does not think the major event is in July, so we're already seeing different timelines emerge even among psychics.
Right, that variation is key. No single unified vision for 2025, even among people claiming these abilities.
Indeed. And one more. Prophet Sadhu Sundar Selvaraj. His vision sounds quite dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Describes Times Square being empty, a fast-moving gypsy wagon, a large moon over Miami.
Very symbolic stuff.
Yeah. And the U.S. West Coast being devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. This happens after a woman symbolizing U.S. pride apparently is deemed unworthy.
Wow. Heavy symbolism there.
Right. And his vision also includes tsunamis hitting Hawaii and Tokyo.
So widespread catastrophe, again, focused on the U.S. Pacific coast, Hawaii, and Japan. Lots of symbolic elements driving it.
Yeah, definitely. The interpretation of those symbols is key.
Absolutely.
So as you can hear, it's just a multitude of voices, all pointing towards 2025, but often with very different scenarios, different timelines, different triggers.
A real convergence, but also a divergence of details.
Yeah. So, okay, let's maybe try and bring in a more scientific angle now. Plus, that healthy dose of skepticism we talked about.
Good idea. What does science say about any of this?
Well, one of the YouTube sources we looked at mentioned a pretty significant discovery back in 2019, a massive underwater caldera near the Philippines. It's called Apalaki.
Akalaki, how big?
You get this, 150 kilometers across.
Whoa. 150 kilometers.
Yeah.
That's enormous. Much bigger than, say, Yellowstone.
Way bigger than Yellowstone. And the potential for, well, catastrophic global effects if something like that were to erupt is, frankly, it's something scientists do consider.
Oh, absolutely. A caldera that size erupting that would have significant global consequences. Climate, triggering other quakes,
Yeah.
tsunamis. It's a legitimate area of scientific interest, regardless of predictions.
Definitely. However, the same source also points out that the Philippine sea plate where this caldera sits, it's actually a smaller, kind of diamond-shaped piece of the Earth's crust.
Okay, a smaller tectonic plate.
Yeah, think of the Earth's surface like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
The Philippine sea plate is one of the smaller pieces, sort of isolated compared to the huge plates that cause the biggest quakes, like along the Pacific Ring of Fire.
Right.
So it's not traditionally associated with the kind of mega earthquakes and the massive widespread tsunamis described in some of these predictions, like Ryuju's hundreds of meters high wave.
That's a really important geological distinction. While the Philippine sea plate is active, yes, it doesn't typically generate those huge subduction zone quakes, the M9s, that cause the biggest Pacific-wide tsunamis. The mechanics for a multi-hundred-meter tsunami starting there would have to be, well, pretty unusual. Maybe a massive flank collapse of the volcano itself.
Maybe. It makes the specific scenario seem less likely from a standard tectonic perspective, which kind of leads us towards a more fringe idea, Earth crustal displacement.
The pole shift idea, like in the movie 2012.
Exactly like that. The theory basically is that the Earth's entire outer crust could suddenly shift, like the peel of an orange slipping around, leading to massive worldwide geological chaos.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea. Einstein apparently even briefly considered something like it early on, but it's largely unsupported in mainstream geology.
Right. Not much evidence for such rapid global shifts happening in recent geological time. It's way more radical than the slow, gradual plate movements we actually observe.
And it's quite different from Ryu's dream, too, which seemed more focused on that specific region, not a whole global crust slip.
True, hers sounds more localized, even if huge. Okay, but on a more established scientific front, our sources also mentioned the Nankai Trough in Japan.
Ah, the Nankai Trough.
Yeah.
That's a major concern for Japan.
Yeah, and Japanese experts are apparently predicting unusually high activity there for 2025. They're suggesting over an 80% chance of a magnitude 9.1 class earthquake by March 29th, 2025.
Wow, over 80% probability for an M9.1. That's incredibly high for a specific time frame.
It sounds really high.
It is.
Hmm.
The Nankai Trough is a major subduction zone where one plate dives under another, and it has a known history of generating enormous earthquakes and tsunamis. That increased probability cited by Japanese scientists must be based on their latest monitoring data, stress buildup models, that kind of thing. It certainly warrants serious preparedness in that region.
No kidding, an 80% chance of an M9, that's sobering.
Very.
And one other little scientific tidbit mention was a temporary phantom island.
Phantom Island.
Yeah, appeared near New Zealand recently. Turned out it was just a massive raft of floating volcanic pumice stone from an underwater eruption.
Okay. Pumice rafts. They happen.
Yeah, but it was brought up as maybe a possible real-world, albeit much smaller scale, example of how land could appear to rise from the sea after volcanic activity, potentially relating to those dream images.
I see the connection. It shows how sometimes these seemingly bizarre dream elements can have echoes, however faint, in actual weird natural phenomena.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the planet is dynamic, capable of producing strange stuff, even if it doesn't perfectly match dramatic prophecies.
Good point.
And of course, we absolutely can't ignore that underlying question, the one that, echoes the user text we saw, the one probably on many listeners' minds. Is 2025 just going to be another year where these kinds of dire predictions just don't happen? Like 1999, like 2010, like 2012?
Right. Will it just fizzle out again? That skepticism is totally understandable given the history. It creates a natural bias almost to question if this time will be any different.
It really does. So, okay, we've got all these predictions, dreams, prophecies, physics theories, psychic readings. We've got the scientific context, some potential mechanisms, lots of skepticism, and we have our collective memory of past alarms that just faded away. So, what's the human element in all this? Why are we so drawn to these ideas, both the scary ones and the hopeful ones?
That's a great question. It really touches on something fundamental, doesn't it? Our fascination with the future.
Yeah, this need to know what's coming.
It stems, I think, from a deep-seated human desire for understanding, for maybe a sense of control, or at least preparedness, in what feels like a really uncertain world, and also maybe a search for meaning.
Control and meaning.
It's this blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hope for good things, anxiety about potential threats. Predictions tap right into that.
That makes total sense. There's definitely an allure to knowing the future, right? Whether it's to brace for impact or to get ready for something amazing. These predictions, whether they turn out to be accurate or not, they definitely connect with our deepest hopes and fears.
Precisely. And maybe, even if these specific 2025 predictions don't happen literally, maybe they serve another purpose.
Like what?
Could they maybe just prompt us to reflect, to think about our present course as individuals, as societies? Think about our vulnerabilities, the kind of future we actually want to build.
Like a catalyst for thought.
Exactly. Naoki Manshou, in his closing thoughts, apparently emphasized something similar. The importance of finding your own path, adapting to change, regardless of any specific prophecy.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. It shifts the focus, doesn't it? From just passively waiting to see if something happens to actively engaging with our lives and our future right now. And actually, Ryu herself, in that updated manga edition, she apparently includes a message about preparing for potential disasters, yes, but also about the possibility of a better future emerging from difficulty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she even supposedly changed the cover art. It shows her without tears and with a fortune line on her palm, suggesting, maybe a more optimistic outlook in the end.
Oh, that's interesting. So even within the prediction narrative itself, there's this potential message of resilience, maybe hope.
Seems like it. It moves beyond just doom is coming to maybe encouraging preparedness, but also believing in positive change, even if things get tough.
A more complex message, perhaps.
Yeah. So, okay, we circle back to that central question then. Will July 5th, 2025 just be another date that passes without major incident? just joining that long list of predicted doomsdays that never quite arrived.
It's the big question. And this convergence of interpretations, you've got dreams, indigenous traditions, some scientific anxieties like the solar maximum or the Nankai trough stuff. It does create a unique focal point for all this speculation right now.
It really does. And it's just so important to remember how incredibly diverse these predictions are, where they come from, what they actually describe.
Absolutely. We're looking at everything from very personal dream symbolism to interpretations of ancient prophecies to, theories from the fringes of science and even established scientific probabilities like the Nankai trough.
It's a huge spectrum.
It really is. Each with its own context, its own level of, well, evidence or lack thereof.
So ultimately, obviously, we're not here to say definitively what will or won't happen. Nobody can, right?
Of course not.
Our aim today was really just to explore these various predictions, look at the different ways people are interpreting them, the different lenses you can view them through,
Yeah.
and hopefully provide some context for thinking about it all.
Exactly. It's really up to you, the listener, to consider the information we've talked about and, draw your own conclusions about what feels compelling or credible or maybe just interesting.
Critical thinking is definitely key when you're navigating so many diverse, sometimes conflicting claims like these.
For sure. So maybe here's a final thought for you to mull over. Regardless of what actually happens or doesn't happen on July 5th, 2025, what does our continued fascination with these kinds of predictions, generation after generation, tell us about ourselves?
What does it reveal about our relationship with uncertainty, our innate curiosity about what lies ahead, that enduring human desire to understand the future, maybe even control it a little? What is it about the unknown that both, captivates us and concerns us so much?
That's a deep question. I think our ongoing quest to understand the future, whether we try to do it through prophecies or intuition or science, it reflects something really fundamental about being human. That search for meaning, the desire to make sense of the world, our place in it. The fact that these predictions keep recurring in different forms, it really speaks to that deep-seated human drive, doesn't it?